One of the most explosive offenses in college football over the last decade has been the one at Brigham Young University. Here is a team that has been ranked regularly in the nation's top 20. A team that has averaged almost 10 wins a season for the last 7 years. A team that has led the nation in passing 5 of the last 7 years. And a team that has topped the colleges of the country in scoring and in total offense. A team that's made 7 bowl appearances since 1974. Simply put, the Cougars of Brigham Young University boast one of the most exciting and most potent offenses ever seen in college football, and rank second to none when it comes to a highly successful passing game. Perhaps it's often overlooked, but a key element in the success of this BYU team is the work of the offensive line. Year after year, the Cougars' excellent coaching staff develops offensive linemen that are a key to a highly sophisticated passing game. And the skills and techniques developed by that BYU line coaching staff are recognized by all who see BYU play as being a major reason for the Cougars' recent football success. The BYU head coach, now in his 12th season, is Lavelle Edwards, one of the winningest active coaches in the country, and a coach who's always said, games are won on the line.
Past few years, Brigham Young University has had one of the more high-powered offensive teams in the country, and particularly in the area of throwing the football. Fundamental to any good passing attack is the work of the offensive lineman in pass protection. The techniques involved in pass protection are varied and are very important to the success of any team. Our coaches, Roger French and Mel Olson, over the years have done an outstanding job in teaching the fundamentals and the techniques involved in this very important aspect of football. In this film, you're going to see those techniques demonstrated and explained to their fullest extent, and you're going to be able to watch and see how Brigham Young University coaches and players put together the basis for this high-powered offense. I would encourage any coach on any level that is interested in throwing the football and learning more about pass protection to look at this film, because I think it'll be a great value to you.
Here's Bart Oates, one of our former football players who's now in the pro ranks, that's developing coordination through rope skipping. And we felt at BYU that rope skipping has developed our kids more than any other individual technique or drill. As you're looking here, you're seeing the various coordinated moves that he does with his hands and feet. And feet are the important thing in pass protection. Each movement, of course, is coordinated so that he develops the techniques of pass protection by keeping the feet apart, keeping them close together, shuffling them laterally and forward and back. Here are 2 of our athletes demonstrating the various warm-up drills that we do to develop the technique of foot skills. Each movement is predicating on developing some type of skill. Here we're doing a lateral movement both forward and back so that the young man can develop picking up his knees and moving laterally at the same time moving his hands and arms. This drill, of course, has developed rope running. Most athletes will do this through their high school and college careers and even in the pros. It develops, again, hand-eye coordination, moving the feet, using the knee lift, using the arms. As you're looking here, each individual is developing that technique. We use various types of techniques. The first one we went through was just hit at every hole. This is every other hole. And as we develop the skills of being able to move the feet, we'll develop more technique skills. This is a lateral movement. We try to keep our hands high, again, thinking of pass protection. The feet must be pumped up and down. We have more of a hip bend than we have here, but we're developing the technique of keeping the hands high and carrying them in that position. This is a lateral movement. Again, it's changing direction, which we have to do in pass protection. We have to change direction constantly to develop picking up different stunts and blitzes. This is just a drill for running and getting the opportunity to turn the hips one way or the other. This is, again, a lateral movement that we developed, running through the ropes laterally, again, to develop the technique of moving laterally in protection. We always try to keep people in a squared position when we're pass protecting. The hands are held up high, supposedly elbows in, hands reaching towards the sky. Many of these young men are not doing the proper techniques, but this was done early in the year. This is our position. This is our original set position from our Stance to our position of protection. As you see, we keep our hips down, our knees bent, our arms locked out in a football position, heads up, back straight. We do this drill constantly every day. It's what we call a quick set drill, and we just set and pop up, develop a blow, keep our feet apart, get our back straight, heads up, tail down. These are the essentials in pass protection set. From there we develop into a movement technique and move laterally backward or forward. Here we're looking at a simplified movement drill. We developed this quick feet by developing lateral movement on the balls of the feet, moving in and out of cones that are easily to set up. You can use various techniques such as towels or shirts or anything you want to put down, but it's a drill that we try to develop quick feet, lateral movement. We do it both frontward and backward. We in pass protection, of course, have to go both directions, but mainly we want to try to keep the feet moving, try to keep them close to the ground. We want hands up, we want our elbows in tighter than these young men are doing at this particular position. This is a lateral wave drill. Again, we're moving the feet. We're trying to keep the hands up in position, tails down, back straight. As you watch these young men move, you don't see the feet come off the ground too much. They try to keep them down and they move them rapidly. Each one has to get his hands up quicker than they're doing here, but the thing is, the feet are the essential in this drill. This, again, is another lateral drill. We use a little bit more lateral movement. Instead of the cones, we use dummies. Again, you watch the hands are up high, the elbows are in, the hands are placed forward, the tails are down, the head's up. Each one moves in and out, forward, laterally, and back. We go both front and back on this drill. This is now going back, move laterally, back up, move laterally, back up, move laterally. It's a drill that develops, again, quick coordination of changing direction on defensive rushers that are coming on an attack on a pass protection drill. Hands, again, are held high. This is a baseball drill that we use to move laterally. It's just like a shortstop. We try to keep our feet down close to the ground, our hips down. We try to sink our bodies in between our hips without bending forward. If you bend forward, you're getting off balance. As you'll see, this young man starts out bad, then he sits down this time, but now again he goes forward, which is not the way you want the drill. You want to sit down between your hips and pick the ball up laterally, always the feet continually moving. This is a lateral punch drill. You have to have a chute, which we have here, and you punch, get the extension of the arms, keep the hips down, keep the heads up, extend the arms. Don't drop the arms down to the hips, but keep them in a direct proportion to your chest. As you'll see, some of these young men are doing an excellent job. Occasionally you'll find one that will drop his hands down to his hips, and this is a bad position. These are excellent positions right here that you're looking at. Each one is moving with his feet laterally, punching as he moves laterally, and keeping the technique going. The problem here is some people, you can do this on a fence, you can put a board on a fence and do it, or you can do it with any kind of techniques that you can develop lateral movement. Okay. This is a drill that we use every day to set up in our basic pass protection format. Here you're seeing an in protection that we do and form a cup. Both guards settle straight back along with the center. Both tackles drop back and turn as the protection cuts into the pocket position. The basic thing we're trying to check here is what we look for is a power step to the inside. Each man must close to the inside gap and then come back with his format of his pass protection cup. This is a development of what we call our slide technique. Rather than an inward step with our people, we're now stepping outward and sliding to form a wider pocket for the quarterback. This is an essential to widen the pocket, helps the protection to last longer, and gives a quarterback an opportunity to throw deeper downfield. Each movement, again, is similar to what you do with a regular in protection. Here's a drill that we developed, the technique of turning. We try to keep our young men in a position that when rushers come, that they've got to turn because the rusher will change direction. Each young man keeps his hands high, turns his hips, and keeps his head and back in a straight position, looking at the defensive man. It's a drill that is easily done without or with pads, and is an excellent drill to teach a young man to move his feet. This drill is a similar drill, except now we move with a shuffle and a lateral skate drill. It's the same position of people going a little bit wider than they would just be coming off your shoulders. Here they're coming off of a hard charge or a loop charge. What we do is try to, again, keep our hands up, move laterally to the right, turn, move laterally to the left. Each time we turn, it's a direction that the man has now changed to rush the passer. Again, we want to hold the hands high and punch as the man moves to us. We do this both as a negative drill and a positive drill. Here we move to a position doing the same type of drill, only we want our hips open a little bit more than we do usually on a just turn drill. Each time the young man moves, he must open to the opposite foot, opposite hip. This young man's bouncing too much. It's got to be more of a skate drill, lateral skate. This is a little bit more of the position we call a lateral push, step push, step push. Here again, this young man's doing a good job keeping his hands high, but he doesn't have his elbows in like he should have. Here again is a technique of what we call our punch drill, moving laterally on a punch board, locking the arms out, extending the arms. We hope they extend them. We want elbows locked, head up, back straight, feet moving laterally. It's a drill, again, to develop the technique of punch. When your elbows are bent like this young man because he's got a bad elbow, you won't get the full extension or a snap in the punch. This, again, is a turn drill using dummies. We put 5 dummies on the line, and each man gets into his position, and then the ball is snapped. He turns laterally to his right or to his left and punches the technique. Again, we look again for foot movement, extension of the arms, head and back straight. This you can use on a defensive reaction machine. It's, again, quickness, moving laterally to the direction that the possible pass rusher will be coming. It's, again, you have to move laterally. Everything's done laterally, shoulders square, head up, tail down. This young man, of course, is too high. He's punching from the hips rather than from his chest area. This young man will probably be a little bit, he's dropping his hands a little bit too much. You want to extend those hands above the chest area and punch straight out. Never bring them down to the hips. We talk about holstering the young man's hands, and we don't want them to be holstered. We want to keep in the chest position. This is a reaction drill again. We have the man charge, and we move laterally or turn and punch. If the man does not come, we look for overextension. Sometimes the young man gets over-aggressive and tries to go forward, so we've got to point to the direction, and the young man steps and we punch. If he doesn't come, then you don't extend. You'll watch and see when a guy doesn't come and we overextend, then we find out whether the guy is doing his proper technique. This drill is a 3-point drill. We punch twice with the shield. Then we tell the young man to go into an action-reaction. The offensive man is then going to take a technique on. The defensive man throws the shield down and does a technique of a swim, a turn, an uppercut, club, whatever you want. But it gives the young man a chance to punch twice and then go to the live reaction. It's excellent for timing on different techniques. This is a balance drill. We put our hands behind our back. We keep our feet apart. We move laterally, always moving laterally, keeping our chest in a position where we're directly across from the man that's moving with us. As you watch, the feet are kept apart and we move laterally. Again, it's just a little popping of the feet. As we talk and go through these drills, you'll realize we spend a lot of time on the feet, a lot of time on the feet. This is the important part of pass protection. The other part, of course, is never to go forward, to move laterally, keeping the shoulders square, keeping the head up and the back straight. We want always to have a leverage position. This young man's got a pretty good leverage position. His elbows are probably a little bit out. This is a group drill, and what we're doing here is working on techniques and what we call parry drills. Here the young man is doing what we call a double rip-off punch, where he develops a technique of keeping the defensive man from getting inside on us, and we're trying to come underneath and keep our hands inside. One of our goals is always to put our hands into the chest area of the defensive man, rather than let the defensive man ram into us and push us back. It's a simple drill to do. It's just a matter of knocking both his hands off and putting your punch technique back in on his chest and keeping your arms locked out. It's an excellent hand-eye coordination test. Here's another one where we call just a lockout, where the defensive man is trying to pull by your outside shoulder, and as he grabs, you must punch. You must prevent him from pulling you forward by locking out and pressing against him, so it's a punch-pull technique. The thing that the defensive man is trying to do is get you to pull him through by pulling your arm off. We teach our young men to keep their arm locked on. As he pulls, we push. Here again is another drill, the same type of thing as the defensive man is trying to grab our outside arm, and we're knocking his hand off and placing our hand back on his chest. It's just what we call a knockoff punch. We just do this actually 15, 20 times through our practice. Each man develops a technique because of the number of repetitions he gets because of a group situation. Here again, he's working now the defensive man on a swim technique. Our offensive man, of course, is parrying that by punching to the man's chest and driving his hand through his armpit to keep the man from swimming over the top of him. It's a drill that we feel is very important because most defensive rushers have a great deal of practice on swim techniques. The thing we want to do is, of course, sit down underneath that arm as it swings over, and we drive our hand up into his armpit area, which is not illegal. It's a punch technique that keeps the man from coming. Here we're getting what we call a club or uppercut technique, and our defensive man is trying to rip through our offensive man's arms. As he does that, we again set up and we drive our arm into his chest, and we take the backhand and try to turn his shoulder. It's really a turn type technique. We try to punch the defensive man's momentum through and turn him to the backside. Punch, push, turn. By doing this technique, what you're trying to do is take the defensive man out of his rush lane towards the quarterback. It's an excellent technique if you can develop it, and again, it's just a matter of getting that shoulder turned and using his momentum to go away from the quarterback's rush lane. This is a drill that we use. It looks like we're holding here, but it's a drill we set up in a fit position, and then we try to balance. He tries to pull us, and we maintain our balance by when he pulls, we sit and push. When he pushes, we push back and we set up. Here again, we're using a technique drill that we develop a skill of keeping a man off as he rolls right or left, a spin technique. Again, you have to balance up and move laterally. Keep your hands on the defensive man as he moves laterally right or left. If he comes off on a spin and you can't get position, you're supposed to back away and then reset yourself. As you'll see here, we just move laterally 2 or 3 times. The man spins. We try to keep our hands on if he spins close. If not, we move away and back off. Here we're just teaching our young men to punch and move laterally. A punch drill, getting our position, picking our feet up and moving them laterally right or left as we move through the drill. Here we're just setting first, getting the feel of hitting the dummy. You can use a 7-man crowler, a 7-man sled, any type of 7-man, 5, whatever kind of a sled position you have. Here's the movement down through the sled. The position that many of these young men are doing, though, they're dropping their hands to their hips, which is a bad position. This young man's trying to keep them up. This one keeps them up fairly well. Here's an excellent position right here. Anytime you drop your hands down to your hips, it's what we call cocking or recoiling. This drill is what we call a jab technique, where we're trying to get our inside foot driven into the defensive man that's supposedly trying to break an inside seam. We're trying to keep the defensive man from penetrating, and we're jabbing and punching to the inside. It's a lateral step movement, but it's a hard drive with the inside foot up. Again, we're trying to keep the same leverage. Here we're working on what we call an outside tackle turn drill. We're backpedaling, and then we're turning and punching as the man's trying to round the outside shoulder in a pass rush to the quarterback. Again, we're trying to maintain a squared position before we make our lateral turn. It's simulating a defensive man rushing hard from the outside. In conclusion, these drills are set up to show you how we pass protection punch, use foot movement, and body position. Each one of these drills is what we call our 1-on-1, 2-on-2 drills, and you can watch these and get some idea of how we progress as we play a game and develop our techniques.
Take the lead inside. Don't let him in. You got to take the inside face. You got to go inside. Get back.
The football program at Brigham Young University has rapidly developed into one of the best college programs in the country. And now, a new 65,000-seat stadium at BYU is attracting the nation's best college teams to the BYU schedule. Much of this, the direct result of an outstanding football program at BYU and a high-powered offense, powered at least in part by one of the best offensive lines year after year that you'll find in college football.
clap it up, clap it up now. Now clap it up, clap it up, clap it up now.
Fumble.
Clap it up, clap it up,
Go,
clap
go,
it up
go,
now.
go, Joe.
Clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
They didn't go to it. That's straight cover 4. I knew he was going to score. Don't you dare fall down.